so much for your informative talk. Please understand that I have respect for you, and I don't want to say this in any respectful way. I recall one of my visits at a Seville conference in Jerusalem, and a patriarch introduced us and welcomed us all there, and he said, "Welcome to the Holy Land. This is the land where Jesus walked, and when Jesus walked on this land, it became holy." And I recall the passage in the Bible, I believe it's in Genesis, where Moses was on the, noticed the burning bush and went over to see where it was, and the voice of God came from the burning bush and said, "Take off your sandals because this land is holy." So I feel that the biblical notion and the experience that I had there causes me to believe that that land is holy land. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Should I respond? You have complete right I completely respect this point of view. As I said, it's people are free to believe what they want. It's certainly your right to believe Palestine is a holy land. And I respect that, and I think the Islamic tradition respects that. The point I was making is that for Muslims, it is forbidden for them to associate holiness with anything that's part of the creation, including a land or ideas or people. Anything that's part of the creation cannot be associated with, cannot have attributes that are exclusive to God. The legal term in Islamic jurisprudence is shirk. Shirk literally means association. You associate divine attributes with the creation. And that's completely forbidden for Muslims, and I'm sure you would respect that too for them. But you're absolutely free, and people should not take Muslims. A Muslim view should not apply to non-Muslims, of course.
Thank you very much for that wonderful information. Just a personal note. My grandfather was born in the Old City around the year 1900. He was the 5th generation Palestinian Jew. And I don't know if he was a Zionist, we never talked about it. That was just taught. And I'm sure he played in the streets of the Old City, just next door to the Maghrebi neighborhood. And we have old family photographs and paintings of the synagogue that was there, etc. When people ask me, well, you're Jewish, so when you go to, we're Christian, you go to our holy site, so do you go to your holy site, which in Jerusalem would be to the Western, Jews call the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall. And I say, no, I don't go there. That's not a holy place to me. It's a profane place. It's one of the first Nakba sites. So I have very, very strong feelings about that plaza and that neighborhood that used to be there. So thank you so much for sharing it.
You're most welcome. And thank you so much.
I'd like some clarification on the notion of Islamic Waqf. The Hamas charter speaks of Palestinians being Islamic Waqf until the end times, and that nobody has a right to give it away. I understand that's some kind of a religious endowment. What character would that have? And it's not a question of holding something else?
No, it's not. The idea of waqf does not include all land. It would be specific parcels of land. For example, a clinic, a mosque. But not an entire land would be. It's like a charter, the same way that we use charter here, or trusts. We say this college is a trust. So there are waqf properties in Palestine, specific properties. But, and rest of the land, it's owned by Christians, by Jews, by other people. It's not. But there is the issue of sovereignty in the secular sense of the word. Sovereignty, in the sense that there are many Christians who own property in Morocco, my home country, but Morocco is still under Moroccan sovereignty. So in that sense, Palestine, there is an issue of secular sovereignty over the land. There is an Islamic claim of sovereignty to the land, but the Waqf issue is pertinent to specific places or specific buildings or schools or clinics or hospitals or things like that, but it doesn't include the entire land.
So when you say that Hamas is using the word incorrectly, when you say that Hamas in the charter is using the word incorrectly when they talk about this whole territory as being an Islamic Waqf from God until the end of creation. Nobody has a right to take it away.
I do not recall the specific text, and I don't want to speak about it without looking at it precisely. What I would say is that Hamas know, this is a basic fact that everybody knows, the reference to Waqf, because everybody knows that an entire country cannot be Waqf. So the reference to Waqf is to specific buildings, properties, parcels of lands that are legally Waqf, rather than the entire land. But I can't recall the text myself, so.
Marcus Ford, Christian theologian, in his book, The God You Never Knew, speaks also of his aversion to the concept of holiness and the purity laws, which actually separated people from God. They didn't bring people closer to God. So the concept of holiness is also being discussed in Christian theology. I'm not a theologian, so I don't know too much about it, but I also wanted to ask the question, Muhammad, as you describe him, and as he would be very averse to being made to be a holy person or more so. You alluded to that. Where did the idea or the doctrine that he is the final prophet come from, and how do you think he would feel about that being, something that is sort of, I think, almost in stone? Yeah.
It's not the idea of Muhammad being the final prophet. It's not an idea that came after. The Quranic revelation states it from the beginning, that this is the final prophecy in the monotheistic tradition. Again, you can agree or disagree. It's not. The Quran doesn't say you should go and impose this idea on others. But it's an idea that comes in the Islamic revelation. Muslims accept that Muhammad was the last prophet. But again, it becomes an academic point between us now, whether he was or he wasn't, or something. People can argue either way.
We have time for a few more questions.
Sure.
Okay, I know it's the same, just following everybody else's question about being holy. You also said Mecca and Medina are not holy cities. And can you explain what Bayt al-Maqdis means?
Thank you. I briefly explained it earlier, but I'll just go over it again. They mean sanctified, not holy in the sense of having the characteristic of holiness which is God's alone. I mentioned the prophet saying